I got it. Okay. I'd like to warmly welcome everybody. This is a very important moment in time where we can sit with you and deliver the very best that I've ever seen in this profession for your building your team and your success in your future in network marketing, helping other people to do that. I am Bess McCarty of the MLM Millionaire Club School for Network Marketers, and this is Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network, partnering to bring you these generic trainings, quick start basics for network marketers, the 10 core commitments, every Sunday right here at 9 p.m. Eastern. These are ongoing classes that we will be doing year-round. Our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, empower, and equip entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. Just a sec about my story. I was so shy as a kid that I would hide in my room when company would come over. But I learned how to overcome that fear and become a full-time network marketer for years as a single mom. That helped me to be home with my son. I became a body-mind therapist and a holistic health practitioner for my own personal growth and to help others. And now I bring this to network marketers to identify where they're stuck, very similar to Tony Robbins' work. Also love teaching the skills, which is how I met Jeff. He has personally recruited over 500 people frontline in network marketing and built 2 teams of over 5,000 people. His teams have produced over $1 million in sales. And when I learned what he was doing and how efficient and effective and quick and really cutting to the chase, he has evolved his work and his skills and his scripts and his methods. I knew that I had to change everything in the MLM Millionaire Club and begin teaching the best that I know. So that is how we happen to collaborate. We feel that we have different strengths we bring to the table, and we love bringing these to you tonight. I'll let Jeff take it away with the 10 core.
Okay, guys, so here's what we're going to do. We have some people who are just chiming in, so welcome to everybody just joining us. So what we're going to do is each week we're going to go through the 10 core commitments. And let me just kind of start this by saying when you go through these 10 core and these 10 things that we're going to go through each week, it seems almost like it's overkill. But if you've been involved in any sports team, if you've been involved in any type of art, whether that be dance or music or learning an instrument, which is also music, what you'll find is they always go over the basics over and over again. The best people in the world basically cover the basics over and over and over again. A friend of mine said, if you went into work every single time and they changed the pattern in which you did something every single time you went into work, you wouldn't be there long. In fact, it's one of the #1 reasons if you look at psychologists that have done studies inside of different companies and the reason why people leave. #1 is they had a problem with the people, but also they have a problem with the process. If it changes regularly, you're going to find a lot of people actually leave. So what I've done is I've studied probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 50, probably upwards of 75 different companies, manuals, getting started right. I actually go on, and if I'm bored, I'll look up the newest companies that are out. I'll read their comp plans. I'll read their getting started right material, any training that they have. I like the good and the bad. I had a friend of mine say he loves to go watch. Now, he's actually a pastor, but he's like, man, I love a good sermon. He's like, but I'll tell you what, I also love a bad one. He's like, I love to sit through something horrible so that way I can learn so much about what not to do. And that's really how you learn. I think Confucius said, if you walk next to 2 people, look to the person on the left and, implement everything that's good, and look at the person on the right and try to evaluate yourself and remove everything that's bad. Now, that was a horrible quote. For those of you who know that quote, I didn't get it right, but I got the meaning correct. It's basically a constant self-evaluation. So before we get into the 10 core, what I'd like to say is if this training conflicts with anything your company does, go with your company. Also, you are in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And you do have to make your own decisions. This is your business. As long as you're building it within the law and within the correct, constraints of your particular company. Do what makes sense for you. If you have other questions in that, if something isn't working, that's what we're here to provide. This is just a quick start basic is what the name of it is, and it's here to help you maybe figure some things out, maybe connect some dots that you haven't been able to connect yet. And the reason I like sharing this particular training and this information is this is the information that when I brought everything together that I had learned, these are the things that were in common across the board, across companies, different leadership, different organizations, whether it was a product company or a service company. This is the stuff that not only worked, but duplicated. And I have this conversation all the time. It's not necessarily what works. We can get a lot of things to work. It's what duplicates. And if you don't have it duplicating, it won't move away from you. And you don't have the one thing that I think the majority of people dream about in this industry is to build an organization that they can walk away from. And what I mean by walk away from is you don't have to be there every second to make everything happen. And what we like to do is plug people into a system that the system fills in for all the gaps you don't necessarily have. Now, leadership-wise, you want to have as many qualities as possible to attract as many people as possible, but it doesn't mean you can be everything to everybody. So that's where this training comes in and is so important. So to get started, there are a couple lists here that we're going to go through before we actually get to the 10 core. Now, one of my biggest problems is I like this information, and a lot of it I know, and sometimes I'll jump around, and Bess helps me get back on track and says, hey, make sure you go back over the numbers, because sometimes I'll go, number 1, number 8, number 7, and people are like, wait a minute. So she helps me keep on track. So that's how Bess and I have worked so well together. We're a good balance. So here we go. How you think is probably the most important part of building your business. And what I found is the reason why people have so many problems starting out is because we've been trained to think as an employee. Pretty much school, pretty much parents, relatives, friends, everybody that we've ever been around, the majority of us have all been around people who have told us to become an employee. Now, they haven't specifically said become an employee. What they say is go to school, get good grades, so that way you can get into a good college, that way you can pick a great degree, and with that degree you can go out and get a good job and you can climb the corporate ladder. In a way, that's what they're saying. And if you look at history, I like history, and if you look back at the workforce prior to 1900, 96% of everybody in America was what? They were self-employed. These were people that had farms. These were people that raised cattle. These were people who had all different kinds of trades. Now, what ended up happening is, big business basically sat down and got involved and looked at, the factories that were being built by the Carnegies, the factories that were being built by the Fords, and the different, the industry that was built in front of our eyes. They looked at this, and there were actually consultants that came in and told the leaders of these companies and said, if you look at the population of the people who are working for you, within 20 years, everyone will either be dead or retired. So how are you going to replace all these people? And it just so happened that one of the things that they had the ability to do is they physically went in and started changing the whole workforce. And within a period of about 20 years, they flip-flopped that to 96% of people were actually working for somebody else, and only 4% were self-employed. And it pretty much is like that today. If you look at statistics, about 10 million people are self-employed or business owners, as opposed to 360 million people in the United States, the majority of them who are, working and or, in various stages of either getting into the workforce or retiring out of the workforce. That's just where things are at. So if the whole system's set up like that, and I sometimes will sit down, and if you ever want to do something that you just have way too much time on your hand, go look at the top 10 TV shows of each decade. Go look at the top 10 TV shows of each decade, and what you'll find is you'll see a morph of just the mindset of how we're being programmed to see the family, America, work, everything. It is I mean, it's mind-boggling when you do this, you know, and I would suggest going all the way back 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s until current. If you get the top 10 TV shows, it's amazing what you can learn, because what I started, you know, realizing is how much time people spend in front of what? In front of their TV. And if they're spending a lot of time in front of their TV, what are they learning? What values are they instilling? How are they looking at a family unit? How are they looking at what's going on? How are they reacting to things? And if you look this up, it's wild what happens over a period of, you know, 50, 60 years. So with that, we end up with these three mindsets. One mindset is basically the lottery mindset. They get into business and they're just looking for the 6 people. So it's kind of like they got a scratch-off card and they go to their 6 friends. They call their 6 friends and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I was told to tell you I was excited about this new business opportunity that I just got into, and I just spent this amount of money, and I kind of sort of maybe would like to sort of help, you know, if I can just show you this. You know, and then you get into all those weird conversations. And basically what I've learned is the way in which you talk to people, the vocabulary you use right off the bat gives you a way of what you're doing. And not that, here's the thing, not that sometimes there's a person that works for. One of the problems that I have inside the industry is sometimes we'll use one testimonial that's only happened once in the entire history of the company to sell the methodology that we want to sell. I look for what works all the time, what duplicates all the time. So number one, out of the 3 mindset is opposer mentality, the lottery mentality. The second mentality is the amateur mentality. The amateur mentality in business is I'm looking for one thing that I'm missing, and it's that one thing that I'm missing that's stopping me from building this. And what I can tell you is there's probably more than one thing. You know, John Maxwell has a great story about a young kid that comes to one of his seminars that listens to the 21 laws of leadership, and he goes, nowadays it's kind of funny because over 30 years or 40 years of him teaching that, he always has a guy come up and say this because there's always somebody new in the room that's never heard it before, and he's like, I just wait for it now. He's like, somebody invariably comes up and says, John, now that I have a second of your time, you know, I hear you. There's 21 laws. There's all these books you've written on leadership. You've studied this for 40 years, but there has to be one thing. What is the one thing about leadership that I need to know? And, you know, John said he figured this out years ago. The one thing about leadership that you absolutely need to know is there's more than one thing about leadership that you need to know. That's the one thing. And the same thing is true when building a business. The one thing you need to know about building a business is there's more than one thing you need to know about building a business. If that's where you're at, that's okay. I was there. And the reason sometimes I really hit on some of this and I make fun of it so much is not to point out anybody on the call. If you ever feel like I'm pointing out, here's where I'm pointing to. I'm pointing to myself. I'm pointing to myself. The reason I get so, you know, maybe over the top with some of it is because I was there. I was there, I've been there, I done that. And I've been there and done that wrong many, 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 many times. And I'm just trying to point out what I've done wrong and hopefully let you avoid some of my mistakes. So number one, the lottery mentality. Number two, people seek the one thing. Number three, realistic expectations. That there's stuff you're going to have to learn. And unfortunately, it's the majority of these lessons are not lessons you've ever heard before. And the reasons you've never heard them before is because you're not on the side of the employee. The reason you've never heard them before is because when you start a job, they don't go over these things. These are not the things you've been trained on in school in most cases. These are not the things you've been trained on your first, second, third job or in one of your careers. Most people do not hear this kind of training. That's why it seems like there's so much. The reality is there's not a lot, but there are several things that you have to get, understand, and do well to be able to move forward. Now, one of my mentors, David Bird, said, you can achieve success by simply doing the right things consistently over a sustained period of time. So I wrote that, you know, quote down by him. Again, it's you can achieve success by simply doing the right things consistently over a sustained period of time. So, of course, I had to ask the question, and then get scolded, sort of. I said, well, how long do I need to do the right stuff to understand if it's right stuff? And I said, is that the reason why most people don't succeed? They're just not consistent. He said, Jeff, I'll be real honest. Most people never even find the right things to focus on, let alone do them consistently enough to make them work. He's like, but when you do, he's like, the results will be evident. And he's like, and that, in the end, that's what we're looking for in the results. He goes, but in the beginning, we're just looking for activity on the right things. So I guess part of this is you have to decide, is what we're talking about the right things? Is this what you see consistently from the people who are succeeding inside of your different companies? The stuff we're going over, do the people who are succeeding use these techniques? Maybe not exactly, but do they do the things we're talking about? Next, how you think. So we want to think like a business owner. That's number one. This is, again, how you think. We haven't even gotten to the 10 core yet. Think like a business owner. That's number one. Number two is think like a networker. And number three is think like a leader. Now, here's a different definition for a business owner. A business owner takes responsibility for whatever is going on. If there's a holiday coming, we need to adjust for that. If at the end of the month, if we're not where we need to be, we need to adjust for that. We take 100% responsibility as a business owner because there is nobody else to go to basically count on. And that's how I started succeeding, is I finally got to the point where I'm like, I am not going to rely upon anyone else to make me successful. I am going to make myself successful by learning everything I can from everyone I can and making decisions about what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do, and have to put together my own plan. Number two, think like a networker. A networker has to ask some questions. And those questions we're going to go over here. There's 5 of them. There's 5 things we have to get right to build a network that moves away from us. And then 3, think like a leader. You're constantly in a position where you're leading people, so you kind of have to look at how this affects other people first, and then how it affects you. And the problem is most of us have been brought up in a situation where, and this is just human nature, I don't know if you know this, but human nature is protect you first. That's just who we are. It's a protect you first, society. It's 6,000 or 8,000 or 10,000 years of programming into us, depending on, carbon dating and, where you, fit into how long we've been around, or for as long as we've been around. We are survival based. That is our comfort zone, means protect us first. So it's really hard to think about other people before you think about yourself. So mindset, a particular way of thinking, a person's attitude or set of opinions about something. So how you think is so important. So you got programming, your philosophy, your identity, your thinking, your attitude, your actions, your habits, your results, your lifestyle, and your lifestyle leads into your legacy. So this programming part, the stuff up here in your head leads into your philosophy of how you see everything, including business. And that's going to break down to your identity. And how you identify. I always ask people, I said, well, what is your identity inside of direct sales? That's a really good question to ask. What is your identity inside of direct sales? Are you a representative? Are you a business owner? Are you a leader? And it's really interesting when I've asked these questions, and I actually have done a silent poll. I said, okay, everybody take out a piece of paper, and I want you to write down the answer to this question. What is your identity inside of this company? And everybody wrote it down and passed it to the front. And it's really wild in a seminar that I was able to get like 47 different answers in a room of 50 people. I thought that was really interesting. So what it told me was everybody sees it a little bit differently. Now, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, but it is a bad thing if you're trying to lead an army into battle and you ask, what is our objective, and you get 47 different objectives. That's a problem. And what I saw as a problem is you need to identify who you are, and that helps you out. So I identified myself as a recruiter and a team builder. And I started teaching recruiting and team building. And guess what happened to my team? My team started identifying themselves as recruiter and team builders, and all of a sudden our business exploded. So it has a lot to do with how you identify and then your thinking. If you identify as a recruiter and as a team builder, then you'll start making decisions as a recruiter and as a team builder. That's just how it works. That will leak down into your attitude, how you feel about what's going on, and then your actions and habits and so on and so forth. That's about thinking. So I work a lot on mindset with people before they start going, just to get them to understand if this stuff doesn't click right away, these are the reasons why. So your programming, here's where it comes from. A lot of people say, well, how do I reprogram some stuff to make it work for me? And what you listen to, what you watch, what you read, and who you hang out with. Those 4 things. What you listen to, what you watch, what you read, and who you hang out with will have the biggest impact on your programming, and it'll open doors to other people. So Jim Rohn, one of his great quotes is, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So what I started doing is I started looking for people who were listening to the right stuff. I started looking for people who are watching the right things. I started looking for people who are reading great things and then hanging out with, great people. Therefore, my business exploded. So to build an efficient team and to be able to recruit, the first thing is you want to be core. And what that means is there's going to be a list here of 10 core things. To be core, you have to be core in all 10, meaning you have to be committed to all 10. You can't be committed to 6 of them and make it work. Just like if there are 10 ingredients to bake a cake, I can't use 4 or 5 really good ingredients and leave out the other ones and expect to get a cake. By the way, if you leave out ingredients in a cake or in brownies or pretty much in anything you go to make, what ends up happening? You don't get the end result you want. And that's what ends up happening inside of a team. So number 1, you must be core. Number 2, you must start people the right way. So before we even get to the 10, we're not to the 10 core yet. This is just a list of some things you want to do right to get to the 10 core. You must start people right. That's number 2. Number 3, you must obey the laws of duplication, and we're going to go through those laws here in a minute. And you want to know those laws before you get into doing the 10 core, so that way you know what not to do. I'll be real honest, most of the time when I sit in a seminar, I'm trying to eliminate all the things that are extra that I don't need, so I can just focus on the few things that I do need to make myself successful. So number 3 was obey the laws of duplication. Number 4, you must protect your team. And we need to protect it from the inside and outside stuff. And number 5, you must learn the growth cycle. So there's a cycle that you'll need to learn in the business, just kind of see it coming. And you won't know it until you go through it. But once you go through it, you'll know it. What we want to do is just describe it to you so you can see it coming. So number 1 was be core. Number 2 was start people right. Number 3 was obey the laws of duplication. Number 4 is protect your team. And number 5 is learn the growth cycle. Now, what I'm going over here is actually part of a PDF that I built for a particular company. So what I'm doing is I'm stripping it apart. I'm in the process of breaking this down, so that way we can actually get this training to everybody, and it's going to be generic, non-company specific, non-product specific, just the basics, so that way you guys have this to follow along. Then what we'll do is each week we're going to give one thing. We're going to give you one thing to focus on each week over a period of 12 weeks. So we're going to go 5 weeks. We're going to focus on one of the core each week on the back half. On the 6th week, we're going to basically do a recap, so that way you guys kind of know the schedule here. We do a recap of what's going on, and then we'll go for the other 5 core, and then on the 12th week, we'll do a recap and a graduation. So it's kind of like you'll get your associates at the end of 12 weeks if you attend all of these, and make sure you're here, make sure you've taken notes, make sure you understand, you'll be able to get your associates. And then we'll go another 12 weeks, and you'll get your bachelor's in another 12 weeks, and you'll get your master's in another 12 weeks, and you'll be a PhD at this, and you'll be able to turn around and teach it. That's why we go over it so many times. Some people are like, why do we go over this so many times? I was like, Why do they go over, the basics inside of your job so many times? The safety lessons every year. You went to school for year after year and you had to sit through that same thing. Here's what to do. Here's what not to do. Here's what we should be doing. Here's what to look for. That's just the way it works. And if you want to have a great team, remember, we're building a team. If you want to have a great team, you need to practice the basics over and over and over again. If you look at some of the best football players and the best coaches, if you look at football, every year, one particular coach came out and he said, "This is a football." And everybody's like, "Yeah, we know." And he's like, No, you don't understand. I'm going to teach the basics over and over and over again. And all we're going to do is these 4 or 5, I can't remember if it was 4 or 5. Basically, he ran 4 plays. And he won game after game after game. They were so good at the basics. This particular team was so good at the basics that they were actually able to tell the other team what they were going to do and execute the play so well that the other team couldn't stop them. And that's really how I view what we do inside of direct sales, or how I build my team. Is I want my people, especially the people who are learning this information tonight, no matter what company you're in, I want you to get so good at this stuff that you can tell people what you're about to go do and go do it, and there's no way they could even stop you if they wanted to. So being core, ask yourself these 3 questions. Are you doing everything? Are you doing it consistent and persistent, meaning can you track it and show people that you're doing these things consistently? And you're like, but I don't know what the things are. We're going to get to it. And number 3, are you leading and teaching your team to do these things? Because that's where the explosion happens. We went over the law of addition the other day by the 21 laws of leadership, and that's, one by one we start teaching. But eventually we teach a leader who can teach multiple people. And then we lead by division, or lead by multiplication, I'm sorry. So let's get into the mindset. Number 2, getting started. Here's the second thing of the 5 that you need to know how to do before you get started doing this, is getting people started right. So there's 3 questions you want to ask yourself before you get started. And the first question is can I do what the person who got me in, can I do what they did? And I've seen different people in MLM start people different ways, and I've seen people sit people down, and it's a 4-hour conversation. And they teach them the website, and they teach them ordering, and they teach them the compensation plan from 0 to $1 million a day. And they teach them about the super compounded interest, residual, house, car, multi-level bonus that's in the back office that only 3 people in the entire company have ever received, but they want them to know the formula of how it works. It's just, I'm kind of over-exaggerating here by a lot, but my point is, people ask themselves this question when they're getting started is, can I do what this person just did? That has a lot to do with them getting started and actually getting into activity. Number 2, do I have the time to do what you're doing? So one of the reasons that I pick certain things that I teach is I have to ask myself, can this person across from me do what I'm telling them? I just did it. Can they do it? Do they feel they can do it? Number 2, do they have the time to do what I just did? And number 3, are you okay doing whatever that is with friends, family, and neighbors? So that way your business grows organically. If you have a super high-pressured sales technique to get people in, you're going to come to people like me who don't like that. You'll come to people maybe like Bess, who that's maybe not her personality at all, and you're trying to teach people how to pressure people in, and they're like, no, that's not for me. So it might be something, they're like, I don't think I can do what you just did. I don't have the time to do what you just did, and I'm not okay doing that with friends, family, and neighbors. Therefore, it won't move away from you. So that's why those 3 questions about getting started right are so important. And anytime I go do anything, these are the questions I ask myself right away. So that leads us to the laws of duplication. And guys, if you get nothing else out of this training, nothing else, if you figure these 5 things out, and every time you go to do anything, you kind of ask yourself these 5 things, this will answer the question of, should I do it this way? Should I do it this way? Should we be doing it this way? Would be another good question. Okay, so these are the 5 laws of duplication. 5 laws of duplication. Before we get to the 10 things we're going to do, these are the 5 laws of duplication. Number 1 is whatever you go do, it has to work instantly. And here's what instantly means. Instantly means 30 minutes to an hour. Can I sit down and teach you something to go do in 30 minutes to an hour? Because if I can't teach you this in 30 minutes to an hour where you can go do it, it's not going to duplicate and it's not going to move away. Therefore, it's going to be very difficult for this to grow rapidly to get any momentum to be able to beat attrition. So number one, it must work instantly. Number two, it must work 10 levels below me. So whatever I go do, it has to work 10 levels below me. Now let me give you a visual explanation. Let's say I'm in insurance. I'm not, but let's say I'm in insurance. And let's say I go out and I target insurance people. And I use the insurance database to do this. And I use some really cool language lingo that only insurance agents know how to use to be able to recruit other insurance agents. The problem is that works for me, and it works for insurance agents. But all of a sudden, we sponsor a teacher. And the teacher's like, how do I build this? And we say, well, we're using the blah, blah, blah insurance, back utility something, hybrid database. And that's how we're doing it. And we're using this internal system that nobody else has access to. So all of a sudden, the teacher's like, you know what? I don't think I can do this. And all of a sudden, you have people dropping out left and right because it's not something that works instantly, and it's not something that could work 10 levels below me. And number three, it must work with people you don't know. Don't know meaning you've never met them before. So again, if you have something that only works amongst close friends but doesn't work with people you don't know, personally, my opinion is I won't use it, I won't do it, because if it doesn't work with people I know and people I don't know, it won't duplicate, it won't move away. And my goal is to have freedom. I want to build something once, big enough and strong enough where I don't have to go back and continuously rebuild it, which is unfortunately what most people have to do inside of the direct sales industry. Because if you don't do it and you don't follow these rules, what happens is you'll build something up and then it'll fall apart, and then you build it again, and then it'll fall apart, and then you build it again. We just want to build it once. Hopefully everybody is in agreement on the line tonight that you only want to build this once. So, number four, it must work 1,000 miles away. Meaning, I should be able to do whatever I'm doing face-to-face with somebody in my city. I should be able to do it over the phone 1,000 miles away, and it should still work the same. These laws are actually pretty complicated. Like, if you try to take a technique or you try to take somebody's idea and you run it through these 5 things, and I've done this with people, I said, give me a really cool, something different, some idea you've never done. And we run it through these, and I said, do you see where that's not going to work? And they're like, man, I would have never thought of that. And I was like, that's why I screwed up so much in the beginning. I didn't know these 5 laws. If I would have known these 5 laws first, before I went out and did any activity, it would have saved me so much. Guys, what we're trying to do is save you time. So it must work 1,000 miles away. And last, number 5, so the 5 laws of duplication. The 5th law is it must work when an amateur does it to a professional and vice versa. A PhD to a GED and vice versa. So the most experienced person to the most non-experienced person. An older person to a younger person. Person who lives in the city, person who lives in the country. Has to be able to work still then. So those are the 5 laws of duplication. The next is protect your team. And there's 3 things to protect your team. Keep it simple. Keep it easy, keep it duplicatable. Just repeating this, keep it simple, keep it easy, keep it duplicatable. One of the hardest things to do inside of this business is to keep stuff simple and easy. Because we learn something, and then we add it on to the last thing we learned, and then we add it on to the last thing we learned, and then we add it on to the last thing we learned. And all of a sudden you're teaching people stuff that has too many steps, and it seems overly complicated. Again, there's not a million things to learn to get this started, but there are a few that you have to figure out and do well. And here's the last one, understand the growth cycle. So here's how the growth cycle works. First of all, you're going to learn something. It's called learned knowledge. You will learn stuff on this call. You will learn stuff out from books and other meetings. You're going to learn some stuff, and then it moves to step 2, which is activity knowledge. So there's a big difference between hearing it here and then going out and trying it, right? The activity. Here's what we found. 80% of people get stuck in the activity mode, get stuck in the learn mode and never get into the activity mode. So it's like an 80-20. 80% are stuck at the learned mode. They go to class after class, book after book, seminar after seminar, but never apply anything. I was guilty of this. For those of you who are watching this video online or even online afterwards, if you look behind me, there's books on the bookshelf. This table that I'm leaning on, there's books underneath that. I have books under books under books. The problem was I bought books for a long time, and I went to seminars for a long time without reading them. But worse, I didn't do any of the activity. I didn't try anything. I would read something and be like, oh, that's a good idea, but I wouldn't apply it. Eventually, I started going to these seminars and learning this, and I started applying everything, and it just exploded. Why did it explode? Because I was doing the activity, and instead of just doing a little bit, I went with the idea of, I went from 0 to full throttle very quickly and messing it all up because I heard Tony Robbins say the reason he became such a great speaker so fast is he realized that the average speaker only spoke 6 times a year. The average speaker only spoke 6 times a year. Therefore, it took them 20 years to get proficient enough at speaking to be able to speak well. So Tony went with the idea, well, what if I spoke 3 times a day? What if I spoke in the morning for a networking club? And what if I spoke at lunch for a luncheon? And what if I spoke in the evening? I'll speak for free. Watch this. He paid to speak in front of certain people. Most people are like, I want to get paid. Well, yeah, you might. But in the beginning, you want to get in front of as many people as possible. So he paid to get in front of people. So what he ended up doing is he spoke 3 times a day for a year. For a year, he kept that pace. And he said he ended up with more experience as a speaker in 1 year than the average professional had in their lifetime. That's activity knowledge. I hope that's a good analogy. Number 3 is modeling knowledge. After you do it well and you've got it down, now you can go watch an expert do it and kind of pick up all kinds of tips. And now here's why you're able to pick up tips after you've done it for a while, because now you're not worried about the mechanics. Now you're not so worried about the mechanics of how it works. What are you worried about? You're looking at fine-tuning how it works because you already know the pattern. You already know the lingo. Now you're picking up all these 1% things. And that's I wish that for everybody on this call and everybody who's watching the replay of this. I wish that you get to the point where you've got the mechanics down so well in your presentations and your trainings and what you do, that now you're looking at the 1% things and all you're doing is refining your craft. And the last, number 4, is teaching model. So that's a cycle you have to go through. I got to learn it. I got to go out and do it. Once I do it long enough, now I can go out to very specific people to work on and then go out and teach it. So that all leads up to the 10 core. Seems like a lot, maybe too much, but I'm telling you, that's the stuff you really want to know before you get into what we're about to talk about, which is the 10 core. And I'm going to make it so simple. This is going to be so easy. You'll be like, I can't believe that it's this simple. So number 1 of the 10 core. So if you want a number 1 through 10, we're going to hit each one of these, and we're going to be done probably in the next 6 minutes. So number 1 is getting started right. We already talked about that. That's one of the main core. Got to be able to get people started right. So that's number 1 is you getting started right. Now, why would it be so important for you to get started right? Because if you got started wrong, all you're going to do is teach people how to get started wrong, and that's not going to work. So even tonight, I'm telling you, you can start all over again. We can go over how to get started right, and you can get started all over again. You can get started right now and be like, look, I got into my company at this date, but I didn't get started right until right here, and here's what my success was. And people are like, oh, okay, I want to follow you. Number 2, which is what we're going to go into in the back half after we take a break and we get some insight from Bess, is basically getting activated. So we want to get started right, number one. Number two, we want to get activated. Activated, we'll go into the details here in a minute. Number three, professional development or personal development. Professional development or personal development is number three. Number four, market daily. We're going to talk about how to market every single day. You want to market every single day, what you're doing. Different platforms, different avenues, what's the best one, we'll go over, but you want to market every day, whether that be Facebook, whether that be an email campaign, database. Some people have databases, some people don't. We'll talk about that when we get into marketing daily. You want to market, watch this, you want to market to people who don't know about what you do, and you want to market to people who do know what you do. And we'll go into the details of that, but you want to market every day. 5, present daily. Present daily. You want to be able to present what you're doing in front of people every day. And you say, but I have a busy job. That's okay. There are ways to present to people every single day, even with your busy job. But I have kids, but I have a dog, but I have a cat, but I have class, but I live in an apartment. I've literally heard every version, I think, of every excuse that somebody's been able to. I travel international. I'm in a different language. I'm in a different time zone. I don't have access to the internet. I don't have access to a phone. There is still a way to present every day, and I'll show you how to do that. It's really cool. Number 6, attend a presentation weekly. Attend a presentation of your company weekly. Now, if they don't have any live events, I would watch one online. Some companies are brand new. Most companies who are brand new are doing a lot of Facebook stuff. So find your leadership wherever they are. Find out where they're presenting. If you can't go there live, watch the live presentation at least once a week. Most companies inside this industry will set up one day and an evening to have a presentation once a week. Number 7, attend a core training weekly. So if your company doesn't have some kind of core training, go to that. And then this is a core training weekly. Core training meaning it's the same stuff. You're going to learn, you're going to refine, you're going to be able to ask questions, you're going to be able to pick up these 1% tips on the back half when we go over each thing. And here's what I can tell you. You might hear this 10 times and think, I got it. And then the 11th, 12th, 13 times, you're going to hear totally different stuff. Why? You're at a different point. You're at a different point. So number 7 was attend a core training weekly. Number 8 is attend a monthly regional event. A monthly regional, some kind of training. Most companies have some kind of monthly training of some kind somewhere. You want to be able to attend that. And we're talking about across the board, across the nation. And if your company doesn't have it, you can create it. That's just what has to happen. So number 8, attend a monthly monthly regional training. Number 9, attend all corporate or team-based conventions. So if your team does a convention, attend the convention. If your company does a convention, attend the convention. Some companies do 1 convention a year. Some companies do 2. Some people do quarterly conventions. Attend the conventions that your upline says to go to, and if you want to throw in an extra one that corporate's doing, go get ahead of everybody. Get the extra information if you have the ability to do so. That leaves us with number 10 of the 10 core is create a monthly map. A monthly map meaning a massive action plan. So I'm just going to repeat the list and read through it. So if you missed any, you can pick these up. Number 1, get started right. Number 2, get activated, which is what we're going to go over in detail here in a minute. Number 3, professional development. Number 4, market daily. Number 5, present daily. Number 6, attend a weekly presentation. Number 7, attend a core training weekly. Number 8, attend a monthly regional. Number 9, attend all conventions for either your team or your corporate. They'll tell you which one. And number 10, create a monthly map. Create a monthly massive action plan of what you're going to go out and do activity-wise. Activity. What activities are you going to focus on? And when we get to that, we can break it all down. But what I'd like to do right now is I'm going to turn this back over to Bess for a minute and get her insight on what we're doing. And Bess, can you hear me? And hold on one second.
There we go.
Oh, I can hear you. There we go.
Okay, so did you guys notice that the number 3, okay, the number 7, attend a core training, a weekly core training, all you have to do is hop on these and you take care of number 7. So we provide that number 7 right here. Just attend, just show up. So that's so much in network marketing is you show up, right? You show up. Most of these, a whole lot of these are just showing up. So just attend, suit up and show up, as they say. Now, did you notice, for those of you who attend our Facebook Live weekday noon lunchtime leadership shows, did you notice that that takes care of number 3? The personal development of the 10 core is personal development daily. And so we provide actually that number 3 and number 7. This is all free to you and your team. You can hop on and join our Facebook Live MLM lunchtime leadership shows. And you just go to that Facebook group, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, and there's always a link there before the show that you just click on to join. So leadership is important because if you don't have that, you don't have a business. You don't have anybody following you, either customers or distributors. And there are a few people on here who simply want to build customers and not a team, and that is cool. That is cool. This all applies to this too. So however you define your business is fine with us. If it's just customers, learn these things and apply that. But this will also apply to team building too. And number 5 of the 10 core, did you notice, was present daily. And we do recommend that everybody present at least 2 times daily to build a team. If you want to build a team, to get ahead of attrition, because you just need to do that many. If you want to build faster, 5 presentations a day, and if you're in a challenge like a 30, 60, or 90-day challenge, which is one of the things I love helping people do. I've helped people jump into 6 figures, jump ranks that way. But if you're doing a challenge, that would be 10 a day, and you can only keep that up for so long. However, the 2 presentations a day can be done real quickly and easily with a script that Jeff has that all of you got in your Always Get a Yes book. So simply open that Always Get a Yes book. I believe all of you have that link, or just private message me if you don't. But in that book on pages 5 to 7 is the quick start way to invite people fastest. With the wonderful script that we'll go into more in detail later, but just know that you have this. Check out pages 5 to 12 in your Always Get a Yes book. When we're finished with this next section where we delve into the core skill number 2, we're going to have questions and answers afterward. And the replay for this whole thing is a YouTube, which you will get in an email. So we will provide that for you.
Awesome. So with that, guys, I want to give you a couple 1% things when it comes to being activated, or get activated. So you want to be a product of the product. You want to be able to buy the products you have. You want to be able to try them. You want to be able to give personal testimonials. Personal testimonials of what works, what you liked. Very, very cool to do. In fact, I have a couple friends that are using I'm not going to go for names, but they're using health and wellness products, and they're actually doing a video every day as they take them and reporting basically their results. One of the most amazing ways to find new people, customers, whatever. What I can say is if you start doing a video every day about products, watch this, about products, keep congruent meaning keep the same on products and don't switch between products and opportunity. Because if somebody comes on to learn about a health product and that's why they're there and they start liking your stuff and watching your stuff, and then watch this, all of a sudden you try to pitch a business at them, you change direction and changed focus, and that being non-congruent doesn't work out so well, is my point. Number two, not only use your products, but know them. And what I mean by know them is some companies have an extensive array of products, and some companies have one product. Regardless, you want to know what the products are. So I'm just going to make a suggestion. If your company has a lot of products, what I started doing is I started ordering one thing differently every time I made an order. One thing differently, so that way I could just check out what we had. I would try it. If I liked it, awesome. If it wasn't the coolest thing in the world, I would go to a meeting and I'd hand it to somebody else. You know, hey, check this out. It's kind of cool. So we went over know your products. We went over use your products. Number three, results and testimonials. You want to start collecting results and testimonials. So that way, rather than you being like, oh my gosh, and let me tell you this, and oh my gosh, and let me tell you this, and oh my gosh, and let me tell you this, and oh my gosh, and let me tell you this, I would rather be like, I have the coolest video to show you. That way, it doesn't come from you, and third party always is better than you. Remember, when going to market anything, it's 20% logic and 80% emotion. That's how people buy. So when you want to get activated and you're part of what you do, we always say you want to be a product of the product that you're marketing. Now, I thought this was really interesting because I was thinking of this connection. When you think of any product out there, typically we think of a person, don't we? We think of a person that's connected to that product. I have a couple direct sales examples in my mind. But if I say Frosted Flakes, Tony the Tiger comes to mind. There are certain things, you know, and not that Tony the Tiger is a real person. I know that. So for those of you who are wondering about me, I am different and weird, but I do know that he's a cartoon. But you think of a person. So I think the same is true when you're out marketing a company. Like, there's certain people that when I hear about a company, I think of a certain person that's in that company, and that's how I represent. So do you think that's happening for you when you mention your product or, you know, your service? Are they thinking of you, and what vision or what description is that giving them about the company? So it comes down to a leadership thing is what I mean. Is what if, you know, you represented this product so well that people thought of you when they thought of that product or company? That would be amazing, right? And that's really how I always was known. And it worked so well that for one of the companies, I was so sold out to what we were doing is years after I had left, I went to a concert. And this is just a representation of how well it works if you do it right. This was 5 years after I had left an organization, own personal reasons, nothing wrong with the company, nothing wrong with the product, still have the product, still a customer. I was at a concert, and 5 people walked up and introduced themselves. Like, hey, man, how are you? I remember you. I was like, really? Yeah, I went to that luncheon thing that you did. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I had no idea. This was like, they're like, do you remember me? I mean, there was alcohol at this particular concert, so that could have influence. But they descriptively told me about an event that I had done, that I spoke about the product. And they're like, man, I always think about you when I hear that company. And I was like, wow, that's pretty, like, I didn't mean to brand myself, but think about that from what your company, you know, who you are. Are you sold out enough? Are you sold out enough? Is it visual enough that people, when people think of the company, they think of you? Now, the other question is if they don't think of you, what are they thinking about, and how do you make that happen? You know, how do you represent the company so well and so dedicated that that is what they think of? So you want to become that person. Now, how do you become that person? Again, it goes back to knowing your product, using your product, sharing your product, and the other things in the 10 core. When you show up every week, for 52 weeks, do you think people are serious? Know you're serious. That's what I mean. Do you think people know you're serious about what you're doing? And the answer, of course, is yes. The same would be true, and I'm going to give you a tip for presenting, because we're going to hit that one. If you presented online on Facebook every single day for 52 weeks, that would be kind of cool, but what if you did it every day? Every day for 365 days. How serious or how committed do you think the people around you would think you were if you presented your product or opportunity every single day for 365 days? And you're like, I don't know if I want to work that hard. Well, you know, some of you have gone to work for a decade for the same company or a decade for the same boss. And you're not willing to commit to yourself that, like, for 10 minutes a day. That doesn't make any sense. Now, I know it might be scary. It might be scary. It might be self-conscious. It might be weird. There might be a lot of adjectives you could use to describe why you don't want to do it. But the reality is what would the result be? Is the result positive enough? Is it good enough that you could become that person, that branded person for your company every single day doing that? Now, there should be a format to it. Don't just go out crazy and do it. We can talk about the format to do it, being able to introduce yourself the right way, being able to do your 10-minute presentation and say, guys, the only reason I'm on here is I just wanted to identify this is what I'm doing. I just need help. I'd love a favor. Know what I do, so if you run into the right person, you can refer me. Really appreciate that. Imagine what that would do over time. Now, here's what I found. If you do that for 30 days in a row, people will connect the dots and be like, oh, that crazy person online that does whatever, you know, whatever the company is, whatever the product is, however you're representing it. In 60 days, they not only will know it by name, but identify you with that name. In 90 days, they'll be in a position where they'll know you're so committed, they're willing to refer. See, a lot of people aren't willing to refer because they don't know how sold out you are. And they don't, here's the thing, nobody wants to be wrong and be like, oh yeah, I sent somebody to so-and-so, and they're not even doing it anymore. Another good reason to have your product in and in stock. You're like, this particular, and I'm just going to use water because I have a water bottle, this particular water, whatever the product is, this particular water, this particular product is the best product, and you talk about the product, then all of a sudden you get a referral, and the guy's like, yeah, I want a case of those. And you're like, oh, well, I never thought I'd get that order. Hold on, let me see how many weeks it takes to come in. You know, that's not going to work. You know, that's an order lost. Oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go online and check on Amazon to see if they have it. And not that Amazon's supposed to sell your product, don't get me wrong, but sometimes that happens. So I'm just putting it out there. This is the reason you want to be in and committed and activated in whatever you do. If you're in a product-based business, whatever you're talking about, make sure you have some of it. At least to be able to send them a sample or something, you know, if you're in coffee or weight loss or, you know, wraps or makeup. I mean, there's so many different companies out there. You know, whatever the company is, make sure it's available on hand. If it's an intangible, make sure you know how to get them the information on it. So these are some of the things that I have particular on getting activated and knowing what to do and how to do. You do it for 30 days, you do it for 60 days, you do it for 90 days. At the 6-month mark, nobody who knows you would question whether you're committed in the company, because most people don't stick with things, you know, for a few days, let alone month after month after month after month. You know, you want to be so committed that people would like, man, I would fight you in a parking lot to bet that, you know, Kay's still in her company, that, you know, Ignacio is still in his company. That, like, you need to be that kind of committed where people, like, they would put money on the line. Money on the line that's how trusting you are in what you do. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess. And also, this would be a time if you've written down any questions, if you have anything that you want to know, I'm going to go ahead and unmute the line so that way we can get these questions answered at the same time. Bess, do you want to go ahead and get started and we'll go?
So being a product of the product, you know, one question, you know, we can't, it's our love that really shares what we, it's because of our love it shares what we share. One question some people say is, well, do you love this enough, would you want your grandmother to use it? Would you sell this to your grandmother? So right. It is our, people can sense if you are genuinely using it and loving it and want to share the benefits with them. So it is that emotional connection that Jeff mentioned, that's 80% of the reason why people buy. So if you enjoy it and love something, just like you refer a movie, right? Man, you got to see this movie. It's the greatest movie. And Becky, she's been sending people to us. Becky's been saying to her team, you know, she's been saying, you've got to check this out. You've got to get on these calls. That's all I can tell you. And she didn't have to say too much more, right? It's mostly her enthusiasm. You know, this is just wonderful. This is something you can't miss. This is something you've just got to try this. Or if it's your product and it's a guarantee is on your product, what have they got to lose? So, you know, I can see Becky doing that. You know, you just got to try this. That's all I've got to say. Just try it out. It's guaranteed. So these 10 core commitments that we mentioned, I'm going to send out an outline to make it easier for you guys to follow along. And then the other, the 5, I forget what they're called now, but the other 5 that Jeff mentioned and all of their details beyond that, will make it easier for you guys to follow in future sessions too. The purpose of all these is to keep you on track, because we all get deviated, right? That's why we keep coming back to basics again and again and again. And any professional person in any discipline keeps coming back to the basics and drilling on these. And so that's what we want for you guys, is a guide or a lighthouse to keep yourself on track, that you don't get washed away, caught in the storms, gone for a while, out of touch with your business, wasting precious time that could have been working toward your dreams. Because, you know, each of us only have so many days left in our lives. Did you ever think about that? We might not know how many we have, but it's limited. Tomorrow is not always going to be there. It's limited. The countdown is happening right now. We want to spend each day on track to what matters to you in your life before you go. I'm speaking of that as, you know, a baby boomer age person, but it's true whether we're 20 or 60 or 80 or 90. So use this class to keep on track, as well as raise your bar so that your efforts every day matter, and it's the best that you can give it. That's what we definitely both love efficiency and the law of economy. So helping you to do this. Jeff, what is next on our agenda right now?
Well, the next thing is actually answering any questions anybody has about the 10 core. If you guys have questions in the methodology or about the 10 core at all, like is something there, is something not there, why is it listed like this in this order? I mean, I asked all those questions at the beginning, so if you're trying to figure out and have those same questions, it's okay to ask those questions. You can either write those questions in the messenger if you're online. If you're obviously on the call, you can just ask. And also anything that you're dealing with when as it pertains to building your company. Again, no specifics about companies, no specifics about products. If you won't, need that kind of coaching, Bess is available for specifically for that type of thing. But this is just generic overall, putting a team together, recruiting, organizing. Anybody have anything?
Mr. Gambo, I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for the shout-out earlier when you were talking about people who are passionate about their company and product. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Earlier you were talking about how after a week people know, well, based on how long people have been following you on social media, they know by the first month or the second month or the third month that they know you're committed and everything. But my company, I don't want to say that they don't want us to advertise our company, because obviously they do, but what they tell, what my mentors tell me is not to, I guess, flood my Facebook with my company, with my product, with business and all that. So it kind of has me confused because you're very successful and everything, but my mentors are very successful too. So one of the things that they tell us in some of our trainings, they actually tell us if you have on your profile work here and it's your network marketing company name, they tell us erase it because sooner or later people will unfollow you if they see your Facebook as just some sort of infomercial. So they tell us to brand ourselves, and I know I've heard you say that before, but by now most of my friends or most of my former friends or warm market or cold market already know me by, I guess, my company, because I used to, I've always been so passionate about it, but
okay.
I've kind of taken a break off of posting pictures of the company's name, of the product, anything. What I really do now is just talk about entrepreneurship and motivational quotes, which I really do believe they're not just motivational quotes just to post. But I was going to ask you, if my company is telling me don't flood your Facebook, I'm kind of conflicted because I love the training I get from here, but my personal mentor who lives in Nashville, Tennessee, tells me do not have pictures of our company's name. Not that it's illegal, because I guess there are other marketing companies out there that actually tell you cannot use, which is ridiculous. There are companies out there, believe it or not, that actually say you cannot sell our product on social media, which is ridiculous. And my company's not saying that. They're just telling me don't flood it and don't spam it and don't vomit it out.
Yes. And if I can give you 2 tips, and the first thing is I absolutely agree with your mentor. And here's what I mean by that. Some people use social media and they will put out 25 different promo ads, meaning, hey, buy this product today, and it's a different picture or different promo of the exact same product, and it's 25 times on their Facebook page. Kind of like what you're saying. It's almost like spamming, infomercial style. It's just too much.
Right.
So what I'm talking about is if I get online and it's 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, here's my version of my promotion. It doesn't say anything about the company. What I'm doing is I'm coming on and saying, hey guys, what's happening? It's Facebook Live, what's happening? For those of you who are up, those of you who catch this, I need a huge favor. The reason why I need the favor is outside of my normal crazy life of, having a massage practice and having a real estate company and having, a school online and getting my doctorate. Outside of all that, I'm actually working on a project, and I want to be able to share some of the details of what we do and how we do it, so if you run into the right person, you'd have the ability to refer them to us.
Okay.
And give some details, here's half a dozen things about the company, here's half a dozen things about our product service line, and here's specifically who I'm looking for. There's 3 kinds of people I'm looking for. I'm looking for, customers specifically for this product line. I'm looking for people who want to, who'd want to make some money just selling, and I'm looking for people who would love to build a business and are looking for another income. I know some people have weird restrictions where they don't have a car, they can't get to the other side of town. They have kids. I have a couple friends that I work with have autistic kids, and they can't leave for that amount of time.
Right.
So direct sales is perfect for them. Guys, I'm not here to sign you up online. I was just here to kind of give you an overview of what we're doing and what we're looking for. I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, let me know. Now, what becomes very important is the title you give that Facebook Live. Now, in some cases, I've done the presentation and I've never even mentioned the company name.
Okay.
So if you never even mention the company name and somebody wants to know what company it is, what are they going to do? They're going to creep through your Facebook page and they're going to try to find it.
Right.
And eventually they'll like something. Eventually it'll come out and they'll ask you, well, what, I was trying to figure out, Ignacio, what company is it that you work with? They'll ask you that through instant messenger or on a post. That's how I'm able to engage. Now, if there's one video like that, I know that you work at a firehouse, if I remember right. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So if you're 3 days on, 3 days off, and you've got a 24-hour cycle and you've got 10, 15 minutes, I don't know if you should, everybody's different. Everybody's different. My rule of thumb is if I'm at work, I'm at work, and when I'm off, I'm off. So I don't know what the rules and regulations are with the fire department, but this was just my rule. If I was at my work, I didn't do business while I was at my work unless the work gave me permission to do that. I was always in the mortgage real estate business, and basically if I was there working for somebody else, my job was to sell what they were doing, not sell what I was doing. So I never did it on company time. Now, if I went to lunch and I was out of the office on my own time, that's where I'd have that conversation or do that Facebook Live. But I've been away from a job long enough where Facebook didn't even exist when I finally left, so I didn't have that opportunity. Or I would have been taking lunch a lot. I'm just saying, but I wanted out.
I wouldn't blame you.
So does that kind of make sense? I totally agree with what your men are saying. A lot of people, there's too many different ads about buy this, buy this, buy this. We're not talking about buy this. We're talking about do me a favor. Here's kind of what I've been working on. It's almost like give just enough information that somebody wants to ask questions.
Yes, sir. My mentor always tells me, and I think I heard Miss Bess McCarty say this before, is the movie trailer. Give them the movie trailer, but don't give them the ending. Don't give them the story. Just give them enough to where they want to see it.
That's it.
And I had a couple other things to say. Going back to what my mentors and my company say when we're at our regionals or at our conventions, one of the main reasons they tell us, and I think you mentioned it earlier, is why not to say even your company name on social media. And for anybody listening, if you guys haven't heard this before, it's because in this day and age, in this Google worshiping world that everybody worships Google, it's ridiculous. It's kind of scary, actually, if you ask me. But if you have your company's name on it, they can easily go to Google, which I'm surprised it's not called gospel, and they can look up your company name, and then they see one negative review on it, and guess what? You lost somebody just because somebody that one person, that one negative comment said something about your company, and you lose pretty much your future diamond or your future business partner just based on that. So that's one reason why they tell us that. And as far as where I work for the federal government, unfortunately, and they do have rules. My captain has actually told me, you cannot work your business while you're here. Well, one of the things that Mr. Tony Robbins says, break the damn rules. I break the rules every day. I work my business 23 hours a day when I'm at the fire station. I could care less what the fire chief says because he does not pay my bills. You know what I mean? I'm not saying for people to, for you guys to go out and get fired, but when I'm on my phone, I can run my business from my phone. So,
okay.
The federal government can't, get on my phone and say, hey, what are you doing? I actually get customers. I recruited people while I'm on duty. So one of the top rules I've learned in being an entrepreneur is break the rules. Break the rules because, your bosses do not pay your bills. I'm not saying get fired. But as for me, it is a contradiction for me because when my captain and my fire chief say, you can't do this on government time. BS. I do it on government time. As soon as I get to my room, I'm copying, pasting, and sending because I run my business off an app on my phone. So it's very simple. So, break the rules. I don't know if you agree with me, sir, but break the rules. That's what I do because I'm on a mission to build a dream home for my wife, my mom and dad, and her mom and dad. So as far as breaking the rules, that's the way I live. Another thing that I want to ask, would you do me a favor, this whole training about would you do me a favor if you know somebody, maybe you can introduce them to me or refer them to me. Are you saying we can actually do that in a live video? We can actually do this whole thing as a live video? Because I've never even thought about that.
Yes, sir. Actually, it works. It not only works well, but when we get into the presentation, one of the things that I've been teaching, different people on different teams to do is to tag team the presentation, especially with somebody who's nervous, who doesn't know what to do, is the person who's new basically does the Facebook Live and brings on third party to actually do the presentation. Now there's two people, and you're hitting two different groups of people simultaneously.
I like that because I mean I'm not really big on live videos. I've done some here and there. I don't film myself because I wasn't made for the camera. Not like I wasn't made for the camera, so I don't film myself or interview myself whenever I do a Facebook Live video. But I think that's one thing that I'm actually going to do, and I'll actually do from the fire station. I'll do a live video because I've been trying to I guess get more into doing live videos. My mentors always say get out of your comfort zone. It's not that I'm uncomfortable. I just I've never really been somebody who take a picture of myself or film myself. But
right.
using your would you I got something to show you if you know somebody, your script. Yeah. That would be a great way for me to break into doing live videos because when I heard you say that, I got all excited. I thought, man, I didn't know that it was a good idea to do it in a live video, and I actually thought about that. I actually thought about asking Miss McCarty, can I just do this in a live video?
Yep.
Then that sounds great. Then that'd be a great way for me to break the ice as far as Facebook Lives.
Bess, your thoughts?
Ignacio, I have seen you in a film that your lovely wife, Vicki, directed. You're both in a film. You are Ignacio, you are born for the camera. Oh my goodness, you were so wonderful in that film, and I think everybody thought so. So I hope that you can learn to feel comfortable on even a Facebook Live video. And remember to tell your story. Now, we helped you in a past MLM Millionaire Club call to refine your story. So I think that it's ready to go, and it's real refined. You can alter it if you don't want to, leave out your company, mentioning your company in there. But people love to hear your story. So the more that you tell the 5 parts of that 10-minute presentation, let me back up a minute. That script. Can you do me a favor? I'd like you to listen to this Facebook Live so that you know what I'm doing outside of my regular work, in case you know somebody that you can refer to me, and then you can tell your story. And that story would consist of your story, the company's story, the need, the product, the comp plan, and the timing. You can say that without mentioning a company or a specific product. That guideline is in your Always Get a Yes book on those pages 5 to 12. And if you need help refining that, Jeff or I love to do that for you, to make it ready for a Facebook Live or to tell a person, to talk to a prospect in person. But the more you can tell all of that stuff from your own story, like I was, what you start out your story. What I was doing was I was looking around for something extra to make an extra few $100s a month, and a friend was doing this, and I thought I could do that too. So you can tell your story of how you got into it. Then I checked out the company, and I found out they were pretty reputable, and I got pretty excited, and I tried the products, and I liked that, and this is how I felt before the products, and I tried them. This is how I felt afterwards. So I decided, I wanted to be a rep for them, and this is my journey. Within a few weeks, I found 4 more people who also wanted to use the products, and I got my starter money back. And then I found, that a couple of them wanted to also be reps for the product, and I started getting a bonus check, and I made my few extra $100 a month, and now I'm on track to even making a full-time income with it. So you can say how long, what your goals were, the steps you took, what that meant as far as customers or distributors, and that's how you can tell that you just explained your comp plan right there in the form of your story. Right, Jeff? Would that be fitting for a Facebook Live?
I appreciate that, Ms. McCarty. I practically have our presentation memorized. I love the company and business so much that I memorized it probably the second time I watched it. But I mean, I never thought about doing a Facebook Live about it, and that's just a great way for me to because I think I can see myself doing more consistent Facebook Lives like my mentor does. I think the reason why I don't do it is because I'm not the millionaire that he is. So, but, you know, learning this training from you, me and my wife are still going to do that video for you, Miss McCarty. We're sorry, we just been very busy lately, but all the stuff that I've learned from your calls and everything, I'm even more excited because I will do a Facebook Live from the fire station. I'll invite you to watch the video because I actually can't wait to do it now.
That's cool. And you brought up about you know, people going online to find out your company is listed as a scam and all that, and just in case people don't know, that every single company out there, every network marketing company has a scam page. It's just the way it is. So everyone gets attacked, and that could even be a warning if you know that somebody is the type, one of your prospects or customers is the type to go online and check this out. So you're going to find this. That's kind of help to make them immune to fear.
Yes, exactly. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Jeff,
and two follow-ups. I was going to say two follow-ups to that because, you know, that is a common objection that people are like, well, I Googled this and it said this. And I sometimes will ask, I said, well, have you ever shopped at Walmart? They're like, yeah. I said, well, there's 39,000 something negative review pages about Walmart. Do you still shop there? Yeah. I said, well, what phone do you have? Do you have Samsung or Apple? They're like, oh, I have an Apple. I'm like, well, there's about 4 million negative review pages about Apple. Are you going to give your phone up? Well, no. You know, so then it comes down to the last question that I always ask people. I was like, well, here's the deal. No matter which company you're at, I said, does Walmart send you a check? No. Does Apple send you a check? No. I said, well, the reason I work with this company is not because of its negative reviews or its not negative reviews, but they send me a check. So I'll tell you what, when you find something that sends you a check that out-earns what I do, let's talk.
That's perfect. Perfect.
So it's you want to use like basic logic, but what I say is when you do something like that, you want to have a conversation, but you don't want to come across too aggressive. I would almost come across like kind of jokingly, like, well, you use Walmart, right? You know, almost like right. Smile and joke. Well, you go to Walmart, right? Well, I just looked it up. It has 39,000 reviews. How can you still shop there? That doesn't even make sense, right? I said, what phone do you have? Oh, I have an Apple. I was like, that doesn't even make sense. I said, I understand. Watch this. I understand your concern because I was concerned too. But when you really look into it, you'll find that normally the person who wrote the bad review is with a competitor and trying to get you to buy their stuff.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Just like in some of our trainings, they say, you know, one of the most common excuses for people, they say, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. And I already come back at them. I say, well, guess what? I work for a pyramid scheme too. It's called the federal government. The fire chief is the highest paid, then the assistant chief, then the deputies, and the assistant chief, then the captain, then me, then all the firefighters. You know what I mean? So every corporate America job is a pyramid scheme.
I really don't get that one as much anymore. But yeah. I do agree. Anybody else?
I'll just interject real quick here that one of the reasons that I love teaching Jeff's scripts, the real simple, can you do me a favor? I want to let you know what I'm doing in case you run across someone, you can refer them to me. In the period of time that Jeff used that, he doesn't get objections and he doesn't get no's. That's why it's in the book always be a yes. So how would you like to never have to worry about getting a no, because people always say yes, now, later, maybe I'll see when I can, but they don't say no. And you don't have to deal with objections. So how cool is that? How sweet is that?
That's perfect.
Any last takeaways? Something you liked, if you have anything else? Before we wrap it up, I know we said about You know, these calls are going to go somewhere between 60 to 90 minutes. So we want to keep to that time frame. So does anybody have anything else before we wrap up for this evening? Likes, stuff that you takeaways? If we can't hear you, it's because your phone's muted. We've actually unmuted the line here.
I would like to challenge everybody before the next class, which we're going to cover number 3, personal growth development. Before the next class, I would like to challenge you to open up your Always Get a Yes book and memorize that script that we just rattled off here. Hey, can you do me a favor? I'd like to show you what I'm doing, what I'm working on, so if you run across the right person, you can refer them to me. I would like to challenge every one of you to say that by heart, to memorize that so that you can use it in your life and in your business. But I would like to challenge you to come on this call, and when we take the questions and answers, to say, I've got it. I can say that by heart. Anybody accept that challenge?
I accept it. I for sure accept it.
All right. We want this to be experiential. That you change. You don't just come here and sit and listen. That's why it's a workshop class.
Awesome. With that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this call up, or this video, this training series. So we appreciate everybody for coming on. We hope you got something out of this, learned something new, something that you can apply. As always, we'll be back next week, same place, same time. For those people who are part of what we do and have this, this will actually be recorded and downloaded. So that way you have the ability to take notes, watch it again, reference it. In case there was something said, or you missed a part or came on late, or couldn't hear because sometimes your computer, the Wi-Fi, whatever goes crazy. We do have these recorded. It will be on the YouTube channel, but the YouTube channel, these are unlisted. So you'll either be getting that through my team page and or Bess's page. If you're not part of either one of those places, we can get you a link to go to and check out, to become part of what we're doing. So if you're invited simply because you're a friend of a friend, checking this out for the first time, I always have a couple people that I'm like, hey, come check out what we do. If you like it, here's basically what it's going to take to be part of it. Appreciate everybody for being on here and participating. And with that, Bess, any last things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the people who have signed up for this class get an email from me with the YouTube replay. So check your emails. Check your spam filter. Be sure to whitelist my emails.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, for those who are following along, we are doing the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. That will be online as well. We do those at noon. That's free to everybody. We're going over the 21 Laws of Leadership, just insights on how to build your business. So look forward to checking that out and seeing everybody this next week, if not before.
That's noon Eastern time. Go to the Facebook MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, noon Eastern time, and you can check. They're 30 minutes plus Q&A.